Marc Guéhi is one of the most talked about centre-backs right now, with constant speculation around his future at Crystal Palace and clubs like Liverpool and Real Madrid reportedly keeping tabs on him. The question becomes simple: what's driving the hype? In this video, we'll take a detailed look at every side of his game, from his defensive habits to his work on the ball. We'll break down his strengths, his limitations, and most importantly, what Guéhi actually gives you over a full 90 minutes. Before we get into the analysis, here's a bit of context. Marc Guéhi is a 25-year-old English centre-back standing at 182 centimetres. He's right-footed and operates primarily in central defence. He came through the academy at Chelsea, gained valuable senior experience on loan at Swansea City, and now plays for Crystal Palace in the Premier League. Let's start with his role at Crystal Palace. Palace typically set up in a 3-4-3 with 3 centre-backs, a double pivot in midfield, wing-backs on either side, and a front 3. Guéhi operates mainly as the left-sided centre-back, and that detail is important because it adds context to some of the patterns we'll highlight later. Out of possession, Palace drop into a back 5, usually forming a 5-4-1. In that structure, Guéhi's responsibility is often to protect the right half space, staying compact and preventing runners from receiving between the lines. On the ball, he holds his position on the left of the back 3. He tends to stay disciplined rather than stepping aggressively into midfield. Now let's get into his defensive qualities, starting with his defending style. Marc Guéhi fits the profile of a more traditional centre-back, a defender who thrives on confrontation. He's proactive, assertive and comfortable, stepping out of the back line to shut down danger early. At Crystal Palace, that responsibility often falls to him. He's the centre-back tasked with disrupting progression before it reaches the defensive line, and it's fair to say he executes that role extremely well. When Guéhi steps out, he does so with real conviction. He closes ground quickly, engages early, and makes it very difficult for attackers to turn or play forward. More often than not, he forces play backwards or sideways rather than allowing clean progression. What stands out is his timing. He reads danger early and commits at the right moment, which allows him to be aggressive without being reckless. As a result, he rarely gives away unnecessary fouls. During Palace's press, he's also encouraged to follow his direct opponent deep into midfield. He stays tight, limits space, and applies constant pressure, rarely allowing attackers the time or comfort to receive. Now let's talk about his defensive awareness. With aggressive centre-backs, there's often a trade-off. They step out early, but they don't always read danger particularly well. That assumption doesn't apply to Guéhi. He's extremely intelligent in how he manages his defensive responsibilities. He reads the game early, anticipates where the next action will occur, and positions himself accordingly. You'll often see him winning the ball in key areas, either by stepping in ahead of his opponent or by cutting out passes just as they're about to be played. Rather than reacting late, Guéhi tends to arrive at the moment of danger, intercepting final balls and stopping attacks before they fully develop. Another key part of Guéhi's defensive game is his recovery ability. He has a strong physical profile, combining pace with real power. He's not a defender you can easily outrun or outmuscle, even when you think you've gained an advantage. That athleticism makes him particularly effective in recovery situations. When attackers break in behind, Guéhi is often able to close the gap quickly, even if he starts slightly out of position. In foot races, he regularly matches or overtakes forwards, using both speed and strength to regain control of the situation. Now, moving on to his aerial defending, Guéhi isn't among the tallest centre-backs, but he deals with aerial situations better than you might expect. A lot of that comes down to positioning and timing rather than sheer height. He consistently gets himself in the right areas to clear danger, and for someone of his stature, he competes surprisingly well in the air. Now, turning to his on-ball game, this is the area that raises the most questions. Before we move on, just a quick one. I share football insights and match observations daily over on X. If you're on there and enjoy this kind of analysis, feel free to give me a follow. Moving on to Guéhi's ability on the ball, this is where the cracks start to appear. He isn't the most confident centre-back in possession. That doesn't make him poor on the ball, but it does limit what he gives you in build-up and open play. Guéhi struggles to consistently play vertical passes through the first line of pressure. Rather than breaking the press, he tends to opt for the safer option, often going sideways or recycling possession back to the goalkeeper. While he very rarely makes outright mistakes, he also doesn't actively facilitate progression. The build-up tends to move around him rather than through him. This is where his role as a left-sided centre-back becomes relevant. Being right-footed naturally narrows some passing angles on that side, especially when pressed. That explains part of it, but not all of it. Even when clear options are available, there's a noticeable lack of composure against pressure. He doesn't always look comfortable receiving or manipulating the press with his first touch. He also prefers to go over the press instead. That's a slightly better side of his game, but it's still not a major strength. In a possession-heavy team that prioritizes build-up from the back and sustained control, this limitation would become far more obvious. It's the weakest area of his game and also the one with the most room for improvement. Lastly, his box threat. And yes, it's unusual for a centre-back. Guéhi has a real instinct for goal. He's rarely in the opposition box, but when he is, he attacks the right areas and often gets to the first ball. With his timing in the air, he's a genuine threat from set pieces and corners. With all that in mind, let's move on to my final verdict. Overall, Guéhi is a top-level defender who genuinely surprised me with the consistency and maturity of his defensive game. Watching him closely highlights just how much he's developed over the years. Stylistically, he fits the mold of physically dominant centre-backs like Kurt Zouma or Gabriel Magalhaes, defenders who thrive on duels, timing, and defensive control. With links to clubs such as Liverpool and Real Madrid, he would come under far greater scrutiny, particularly in possession. Guéhi is not a natural sweeper, and he benefits from having a more technical partner who can facilitate build-up, profiles similar to Virgil van Dijk or William Saliba. But in the right partnership, or within a system that prioritizes defensive security over constant build-up from the back, Guéhi already looks ready for the next step. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and drop any players or topics you'd like to see analyzed next. I also share daily football insights over on X, and if you'd like to support the channel further, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.